Most of us have heard the phrase, "Wow, that's a real game changer," or, "That changes everything," or, "It's just not going to be the same." Those phrases should give us a sense of what Jesus and his disciples were going through that we hear of in today's gospel reading. They are at the Last Supper, and Jesus is saying his goodbye. He's preparing those closest to him, who he loves and who love him, for his departure. This is not just a farewell like somebody going on a short trip where they'll see one another in a few weeks or a few months. This is a more permanent farewell. He is preparing them for the shock of their lives, his violent death, and the collapse of their plans for the future. Everything is about to change for them. Nothing is going to be the same. But to their great surprise, Jesus will rise from the dead, and they will see him again, but only for a short time. Then after that, they will see him no longer. They won't have him physically there with them when they need to ask for advice as problems arise, or feel his comforting and healing touch when they're hurt, or when somebody they love is sick, or hear his voice speaking words of forgiveness when they need to be freed from guilt. Jesus was very sensitive to the loss that they are about to endure. And he tells them quite clearly, it's just not going to be the same. He knew his friends well. He certainly knew their weaknesses. He knew that they couldn't make it on their own. He knew that their faith would need help. Their human courage just wasn't enough to send them out to spread his message throughout the world. So Jesus makes a promise to them. Help is on the way. The Holy Spirit will come to guide them as they face new worlds and new issues. The Holy Spirit will be with them when they suffer for what they believe. The Holy Spirit will make them aware of Jesus' presence, even though they cannot see him or hear him or touch him. We may be 2,000 years away from those disciples around that table with Jesus that night. But we disciples, too, have experienced loss and need. We too have said many goodbyes and experienced big changes in our lives. When a loved one died, when we got sick and couldn't do what we used to do on our own, when we needed to be strong for one another, when we had a financial setback and had to start all over again, or when a relationship was shattered. As we have faced the uncertain future caused by these and other events, we have said what everybody says about impending loss. It's just not going to be the same. And it isn't. Jesus sees and hears our needs, though we can't see or hear or touch him. As his disciples, we believe that we have him with us in his word and in his bread and wine, our food for this moment of our lives. We also believe that he has kept his promise to us just as he did for his friends over 2,000 years ago. He has given us his Spirit. The gift of the Holy Spirit makes Jesus present with us. When he and his disciples, when he was with them, he could only be at one place at one time. But now, because of the gift of the Holy Spirit, Jesus is with us disciples in every place and every period of our lives. How cool is that? As we celebrate his memory again at this Eucharist, Jesus is once again giving us his Spirit. God has come to us in the Holy Spirit. He has made a permanent dwelling with each of us and guides our struggling church into its uncertain future. Jesus calls the Holy Spirit our advocate. Now that's a word that means counselor or consoler, but it also means mediator. And maybe that's the best translation for the word advocate, because the Holy Spirit is the in-between of God, the force and energy that binds us together with one another and God so that we can experience a peace that only God can give. The Spirit helps navigate our personal issues and helps us to make future choices, both as individuals and as a church. The Holy Spirit is our assurance that God stands alongside each of us as we face the current challenges and any future bumps in the road. Change is hard for us, and life is constantly posing new challenges. And so we admit by coming here week after week that we need what only God can give us: a renewed life after a big change in our circumstances, a hope that what has ended isn't the final word, a strength to stay faithful to Jesus, wisdom to help us maneuver life's many twists and turns. We want to be faithful to what he says to us in today's gospel. If you love me, keep my commandments.